Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show here on 1130 The Tiger. He's Rogers, I'm Patrick, and we are super pleased to welcome in a member of the Ruston Regional, a guy that is heading over there. He is the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and the Crimson Tide are going to be in the regional for the first time since 2014. A heck of an accomplishment for Brad Bohannon, the head coach of the Crimson Tide. Coach, I've got to imagine you're riding pretty high. Obviously, there's still things to be done, but it's got to be pretty cool to get this team back to a regional for the first time in 7 years.
Absolutely. I think anybody that's still playing in June is excited, and then you add in the fact that it's been a rebuild here at Alabama, and to get back to the postseason is just such a big accomplishment for our program and what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. So really excited for the kids and can't wait to get to Ruston and play some great baseball this weekend. Did
you have an idea if you were going to get in? I mean, I know there's so much speculation when it's an at-large bid, when you're not the automatic qualifier. Kind of walk me through the process of when you and your coaching staff and your sports information crew and everyone are breaking everything down. Did you have confidence that you were getting in, or was this a very pins and needles situation?
Over the course of the weekend, I thought it was truly 50-50. And, when you looked at all the projections online, the people that really take the time to break down the numbers and the metrics, some had us in and some didn't. So we were, looking at all the conference tournaments. Who did we need to win the Big South Conference tournament and all that sort of thing. And going into Monday, I really was kind of pessimistic. I figured that I would hear ahead of time if we had gotten in, and I really didn't hear anything. So Monday morning, I was kind of down, and I had talked myself out of it. And when I saw our name come up on the screen, was obviously really excited.
It's obviously a big deal. I'm curious, kind of. Every coach sets goals, especially when you take over a program, which you did 4 years ago at Alabama. You always have goals. I'm assuming a regional kind of one of those baseline goals that you wanted to check off as a metric that shows you're getting back to where you need to be?
Absolutely. The biggest thing is I just wanted to get better every year, and that's something that we've done. And when I took the job, in the back of my mind, I'm like, hey, we need to be in the postseason in year 3. And I really thought we had a regional caliber club last year. We got off to a 16-1 start, and obviously COVID ended the season. And going into this year, I thought we had a regional caliber club, and we certainly had plenty of ups and downs, and feel like we had, maybe not necessarily more than our share of injuries, but to the wrong guys. And there were a point in time where I think we lost 7 out of 8 or 8 out of 9, and to our kids' credit, they stayed really positive, and they never really cracked or flinched, and we were able to persevere and battle through that. And to get to the postseason for the first time in my tenure here is really exciting.
You worked for a guy that I know reasonably well, John Cohen. I'm the voice of the Northwestern State Demons, and I wasn't there when I got there just after Cohen had left. When he was there, but I know you got to work for him at Kentucky for a bit, and obviously he went on to have great success. I'm curious, when you work for a guy like John Cohen, who had a tremendous career and now obviously he's an athletic director at Mississippi State, what do you take from that, especially in terms of building and maybe turning around a program, because that's something that he helped accomplish at Kentucky?
Yeah, I'm so thankful for my time with John and for his friendship, and he's had a bigger impact on my growth as a coach than anybody else that I've worked with. And, I think looking back, my experience at Kentucky was just priceless. And, it was a rebuild. We got there, and they had finished last in the league for a couple of years in a row, and certainly had, more than their share of issues as far as weather and facilities and all of that. And learned so much being a part of that rebuild with John, and certainly a lot of those lessons that I learned of working with him, I've been able to apply here at Alabama and make some real progress.
Talking to Brad Bohannon, the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, coming to the Ruston Regional coming up this weekend. All right, tell us a little bit about your squad, Coach. You mentioned the 16-1 start last year, and there were so many teams that had that same sort of feeling where, hey, this could be the year, great starts, and then COVID ultimately ends everything. What was that like in the off season, trying to figure out, okay, who's coming back, who wants to extend their eligibility, the NCAA granting everyone an extra year of eligibility? Walk me through that process and then how that sort of folded into what you've gone through this season.
Our group is pretty unique this year in that we are really young, where you look at a team like Louisiana Tech that has 3 60-year guys. They get a bunch of 21, 22, 23-year-olds all over the field. And when we take the field on Friday, it's possible we're going to have 6 or 7 kids that are either true freshmen, COVID freshmen, or at least playing their first year of, SEC baseball. So, last year we had a young team. We had 8 seniors, but 2 kids signed as free agents and 2 kids came back, and the other 4 were kind of role players that, decided that, hey, I've got my degree. I don't want to take out a student loan to come back and, maybe be a role player. So, we've only got 2 seniors on our club this year. So it's a really, really young group, and there's been some growing pains, and, certainly hopeful that the experience that these young guys have gotten this year will pay off next year.
Does that in some way lessen the pressure of a regional? I mean, you come in as the 3 seed, and obviously there's good teams there, Tech and NC State and Rider. I mean, anyone who gets to a regional has had a terrific year. But is having a young team like that, does that take some of the pressure off where you go, you know what, these guys can just go out and have some fun, and because this is ultimately a learning experience for these guys?
Well, that's the way I look at it, and I think being on the bubble and not knowing if you're going to get in, there were some kids, there were some tears that were shed when we lost our last game of the SEC tournament, because there were some guys that were like, oh my gosh, this might be the last time that I put on an Alabama uniform, last time I play with these guys. So just getting that second opportunity, so to speak, is really does take the edge off and take the pressure off. And I think our kids will play really loose and free and aggressive because they truly have nothing to lose. So, I think that we'll play our best baseball because we'll have that mentality this weekend.
All right, tell me a little bit about your team, folks that are going over to the regional, and I know you haven't been to the new park yet, but it's beautiful. They've done an amazing job with it, and the atmosphere is going to be great and raucous. When people show up in Ruston, what are they going to see from Alabama baseball?
Well, we do have a good club, and, positionally, I think it starts at the top. Peyton Wilson's our second baseman, our leadoff guy, and he's a really dynamic player. He's a little guy, but packs a punch, and he's sitting right at 300 with 9 home runs, and he can run, and just a really aggressive kid. He kind of sets the tone, and our best 2 hitters in the middle of the order, Sam Prater is actually one of the guys that has experience. He was first-team All-SEC catcher, and he's a very good defensive catcher and a really good offensive player. And Zane Denton's probably been our most consistent offensive player. He's a COVID freshman, third baseman, a switch hitter, with just a really high-level field to hit. So those are the guys that are going to have to carry us, and hopefully they're up to bat with people on base. But, we got a nice mix of left and right. We do have some I know everybody's a power hitter in the low shack,
right.
But, we've got some strength and some physicality, and, we have 4 guys that have hit 8 or more home runs. So, it's a nice group of position players, and on the mound, we've really kind of been pitching about 6 guys on the weekends on the most part. And Tyler Ross and Dylan Smith are 2 right-handers that pitch in the low 90s and throw a bunch of strikes. And Chase Lee and Landon Green have been our best 2 bolts out of the bullpen. So, just like I think the other teams in the regional, it's going to be important for us to stay in the winner's bracket. It would be a real challenge for any team, but our group especially to play an extra game and to go through the loser's bracket with where we are on the mound from a health standpoint. We have 2 of our 3 guys that started on the weekend in the beginning of the season won't pitch the rest of this year, and Connor Phillip and Antoine Jean. So we need to win those first 2 games if we want to be playing Sunday afternoon.
Is that ultimately one of the hardest things, and maybe the things that people don't understand, is how much a frontline starter can affect, losing a frontline starter can affect everything else? Because not only is it, hey, you're losing one of your best arms and a guy you might run out there on a Friday or a Saturday, but it also affects how, now you've got to pitch your number 2 guy, number 1, and maybe he's just not ready for that. I don't know that people understand just how much the loss of 1 arm, or in your case 2 arms, can affect everything that goes on in your staff.
It's huge, and some teams and programs can absorb that better than others. But when you're building, especially, there's just a bigger drop off, and you lose your Friday starter that might be 80 innings and it's not just replaced by one guy. You just don't take, he's out now. The guy who was 10th, the freshman, now he throws 80 innings. It doesn't work that way. It puts everybody in a different role. And there's no time to feel sorry for ourselves, but I think our season would look entirely different if Connor Prelip was pitching on Friday and Dylan Smith on Saturday, and Antoine Jean or Tyler Ross is starting on Sunday, and the other guys in the bullpen. It looks way different. But, injuries are part of sports, and the way you have to look at it as a coach is it's provided opportunity for other guys, and other guys have developed because they've gotten more opportunity. And Tyler Ross is a great example. He pitched out of the bullpen the first weekend of the season, and when Prelip went down, we inserted Rossi into the weekend rotation, and he's really developed and really grown into a really nice pitcher.
Talking to Brad Bohannon, the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Coach, you had a horrific finish in terms of your schedule. You had to play Vanderbilt, you had to play Mississippi State, LSU, who was fighting and clawing for their tournament lives. And so you took some losses down the stretch, but then got into the tournament. South Carolina win, Tennessee win, which was obviously, I think, the win that probably propelled you in. Talk to me about the momentum of your team and being able to carry what went down in terms of getting those couple of wins and getting into the tournament, now into the regional play.
Yeah, from a record standpoint, we didn't finish great, but I thought we played well. You can play pretty darn good against Mississippi State.
Sure. When
Christian McLeod and Will Bednar and with Landon Sims on the back end, you can play well and lose 4-2, against them, which is what we did. And you can play well at Vanderbilt against Kumar Rocker and not finish on top. We scored 6 runs against Kumar Rocker.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't enough to win the game, but we lost a 2-1 game at LSU on Friday night against Landon Marceau and out-hit them 13-5. So, at the end of the day, you got to win the game. But I thought we were playing well. It's just those teams are great teams, and we won some of those games, but not as many as we would have liked. So, it was nice to come out on the right side a couple times in Hoover. It was really good for our kids to get rewarded for playing well. And I've said all along, I'm not going to apologize for the finish of the league record. I think if you put Mississippi State and Vandy and Tennessee and Florida and in Arkansas and these other conferences, I think everybody else's conference records look different. So the one positive about all that is I told our kids and I said, hey man, NC State is an SEC club. Louisiana Tech's hosting for a reason. These are great teams, but you're not going to see anything this weekend that you haven't seen. It doesn't mean that we'll win. It doesn't mean that we'll play well, but I don't think we'll see anything that we haven't seen already this year.
Finally, speaking of that, Coach, how do you go about? I know videos so much more readily available now with the internet and all of that, but how do you go about scouting an NC State and a Rider and a Louisiana Tech, teams that you ordinarily wouldn't see during the course of a regular season?
Yeah, there's so much more information available nowadays than just 5 years ago. So. We've watched a bunch of video of all those teams, and they're all really good. They all have really good players, and we're going to have to play our best baseball to win.
Coach, congratulations on the regional. Obviously, that's a big step in the process of bringing Alabama baseball back to where you want it to be. Best of luck in Ruston. You've got my number. If you need any food recommendations while you're there, I'm the guy to ask. Just holler at me. But otherwise, man, have fun and enjoy the heck out of this great step in your rebuilding process.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. That was Brad Bohannon, the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide.